All right. Well, we're going to try something that isn't a movie review and doesn't have you being the person who knows what's going on.
Which is a good idea because I'm still a little under the weather and still a bit stuffed up. We'll
Well, I
survive.
have been I have been playing. I got it on Steam. Labyrinth of Touhou. It is a fan-made Touhou dungeon crawler, basically, and it's quite good. Quite good.
And it's pronounced Toho.
I think so. Labyrinth of Touhou, Gensokyo, and the heaven-piercing tree. Basically, giant tree appears in Gensokyo, and everybody goes in to figure out what the heck it is, and it turns out to be a giant dungeon.
So it's Toho Etrian Odyssey?
Yeah,
Alright, I'm in. Let's do this.
it's not first-person perspective dungeon crawling. It's top-down, but it has fairly large maps and lots of neat little puzzles to play around with and figure out how to get people into your team. Plus, it has the largest party size I've ever seen in a dungeon crawling game.
58.
No, unfortunately, not quite. That might be the number of total characters, but no, you can bring 12 people into the dungeon.
That's actually not the largest you've ever seen.
It isn't?
Not technically. Not if you count, what was the Labyrinth of the Witch game?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The one where you go in the labyrinth and all your characters are puppets.
Oh, that! Yeah, Labyrinth of Refrain, right?
Yeah, that game, technically you have, like, per the, 5 character slots, you can fit 9 puppets in each one, but they kind of just count as one.
I think it's 6 in each one, but yeah, you're actually right. That does give you, like, effectively 30 characters or so.
And you can control their actions individually, depending on what you pick in the menu, so I think that's the only one I can think of, though. I think you're right.
No, you're right. Actually, I don't think I've ever gotten to 12 in that game because you have to get specific like books or something in order to unlock those formations. But yeah, you're right. But anyway, back to Labyrinth of Touhou. Yeah, it's got a lot of really. So I would say it's not like super AAA. Like ridiculous amounts of material, but each character has a nice, well-drawn, high-def character portrait and like full body character picture for when they're actually in the conversation, and everybody has like their own spells, and there's a lot of different elemental tricks and stuff to play around with, and like status ailments and things. They have this really neat system where you will see bosses on the map, and it will say what level you should try to be at or below to fight that boss. And so, like, you'll try to fight these bosses, and that keeps the boss fights difficult because you get extra goodies if you beat them under that level.
Oh, that's pretty neat. So I saw some screenshots of the game. Now that was the one where you're on like white tiles as you progress through the dungeon, right? Is that like part of a puzzle thing, or are they just areas on the map you move to?
You're on white like circles that signify the space of the dungeon.
Okay, and it's like each one is its own room, or it's like a space in a room.
It's a pattern, so it's like space in a room or hallways or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so they every character starts with all of their like spells unlocked, but you have to do a lot of upgrading, and there's a ton of upgrade options in the game. So like, there's just generic gain experience, gain levels, which increases characters' power. But then every time they level up, they get a bonus point that you can put into any like major statistic that you want. Then you can go to the library, and Patchouli will sell you additional character upgrades. Then there are books and gems and stuff that you can apply to characters to make their growth per level different. Then there are skills, and you get a skill point every level that you can allocate to like special skills for each character. And each character has a few generic skills and a few unique skills as well. It's really cool, actually.
So actually a well thought out leveling system.
Not just well thought out, it gives you a lot of options, and it allows you to build up characters in very open-ended ways. Oh, and the other thing about it is that everything that you do to build up a character is reversible. So you can pull all those level bonuses out and reallocate them whenever you please, and you can even do the same thing with the money bonuses and the training manual bonuses, and like the training manuals will just pop back out of the character and you can give them to someone else or something like that. The only thing that's not reversible are skill points.
Well, there's got to be something. Otherwise, it's horrible to play a game where there's nothing where you like don't have to commit.
Well, no, I mean this way. So the bosses are very hard and require a lot of figuring out who exactly to field and how exactly to set them up. So you actually need it. Like, you really need it.
Yeah, but I mean, like having the skill point thing is that's good because I've played games, quite a few games, where they just let you change anything on a whim, and almost. Like Diablo 3 is the best example. That game, it lets you change your character on the fly anytime you want with all the skills that you unlock throughout the game. It's not like Diablo 2 where it's like you put skill points into something. No, in this one you pick the skills that you want and you can change them at any time. And what that ultimately meant was that like all the character classes had maybe one or two builds that actually worked throughout the game. So you would get all this stuff, but almost all of it was useless.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, you can. They have a system for both purchasing and making like equipment items. And so you have 12 characters, up to 12 characters in your dungeon delving party, but only 4 are on the front line. So you have to do a lot of switching around and stuff. It's very cool.
It sounds like status ailments actually work in this game too.
They do, and they're important, yeah. There are enemies that have, like, healing, and so if you don't have, like, regeneration, and so if you don't throw poison at them, you just basically can't win the fight. But there's other stuff, too, like terror and paralysis, and lots of stat buffs. You know, speed up, attack up, magic down, that kind of stuff.
And there's not too many games that make good use of status ailments. I think the Etrian games do an okay job.
Grandia is a big status ailment, status buff game, but yeah, Etrian's another example. It's weird because whenever you play a game where status buff works, it takes a while to realize that status buffs actually, not status buffs, but status ailments actually work. And then like, oh, these are a tool that actually works in this game? What a surprise.
Well, I mean, when you spend 10 years, you know, like playing Final Fantasy games and it's like, oh my god, is there a situation where I'm going to have to use this slow spell? And it just never happens.
No, you won't. And if you decide that you're going to try to use it, it won't have an effect.
Yeah, there's literally no situation you need this for.
Yeah, that's always bugged me a lot about like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games.
Especially when you would actually try to use them like as an important part of your setup, and then you were like, oh no, I just made a useless team.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's so uncommon for status ailments to be useful in games that I usually just assume they're not.
And then you just die randomly in some fight where it's like, oh, I probably could have used that.
I needed poison. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not going to win that fight. No, it's actually pretty the Labyrinth of Touhou game is pretty forgiving for like they don't tell you this until you actually do die, but like once you die they're like, yeah, if you die it just sends you back to the town, not a big deal, it's all good, try again. And you're like, oh really? So when you're first playing the game, it gives you that sense of like you don't know that it's not going to hurt you to wipe the party, but then when you do, it's like, no, it's cool. And you're like, oh, thank you.
You lose all these characters. Reimu is gone. Gensokyo is
Everyone's
gone.
gone. Yeah, everything's gone. No, it's really... The way that the maps are set up is really cool. There's a lot of... So it's not just like you just gather characters. Like the first few characters you do just gather, but after that, you really need to spend a lot of time going through the levels back and forth and up and down and looking and trying to figure out what the trick is to getting this person to join you or whatever. There's lots of little tricks like that. There's also an achievement system in the game, which is kind of cool because whenever you get an achievement, it like gives you a bonus and you can like use it. It's cool.
Oh, so an actual, not just like a trophy, like a...
Yeah,
Like
no,
an
like
actual-
it's the trophy, like the trophy for, I fought 100 battles, but then they give you 1,000 gold coins or whatever.
Yeah, so not the meaningless trophies that everyone tries to get in modern video games.
Correct.
Which
Well,
are meaningless.
For multiplayer games, it's hard to make it so that trophies don't break the game. So that's why I think that trophies are not useful in a lot of games. But for single player games, you'd think they would do something, but usually they don't. It's funny, there's even a set of advanced trophies for things that you probably won't need to do unless you really want to keep playing the game. There's a thing for you have played this game for more than 128 hours, and it's a special trophy in a totally separate screen. It's ridiculous.
It even tells you you're special. Pat you on the head.
Something like that. I don't know. It's just a really nicely made game. It's actually, I think, a remake of an earlier game that I have a copy of. But this one, the graphics are all updated and in HD, and the music is the one weakness of the game. I'd say is probably the music, because usually where these Touhou fan games have these really awesome remixes of Touhou music, this one just kind of has good but not amazing RPG music. Yeah, it's good enough.
But we are on a trajectory where Touhou games will eventually cover every genre and be the only.
Well, they already
games in
do.
existence.
There's already a Touhou game in every genre that you can imagine.
Surely not hentai games.
No, there aren't any of those. That's crazy talk.
Nobody would ever think to make that association.
No, but seriously, there's Touhou puzzle games, there's Touhou action games, there's platformers, now there's dungeon crawlers, there's strategy games.
There's that Touhou racing game I still haven't played.
There's that tower defense game. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how great a whatchamacallit, like a franchise can become when you promote and allow fan-made works. There's just so much good now, and all of it is the only thing. It seems like the only thing that you really have to do a fan-made Touhou thing is just say at the beginning, this is a fan-made Touhou work, and there's a little boilerplate thing that everybody has to put there. But other than that, it seems pretty open.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons. It's one of my favorite.
And and Zun just becomes more and more famous as time goes on.
How long before we see Zoomsoft at the beginning of a video game? Oh wait, no, that won't happen. Games are dying. They're living but dying. I should say giant game studios are dying, and it's funny.
Giant American game studios are dying, and it's funny.
And they deserve it.
They totally deserve it. It's all right. I mean, we've got amazing single person projects that are, with all the tools that we have these days, there's some amazing stuff that can be done by just a single person.
There has never been a better time to play indie games.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm even counting back in the Commodore 64 days.
Yeah, I mean, most of those Commodore 64 games were just this side of throwaway, but they were all you had, so it was what the heck, right? But
yeah. Well, I mean, there was a pretty robust independent development community back then when
sure,
all you had to do was make a really short game and throw it on a disc and pass it around.
Yeah.
There were subscription disc services too. I think I mentioned
remember
those before.
Yeah,
Lone Star and Uptime.
Yep. I have some of those discs, or at least had them. I don't know where they are now. But anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff going on in gaming as long as you stay away from, EA and Bethesda.
You mean Microsoft, right? Or wait, who bought?
Yeah, Microsoft.
Did they buy both of them now? Is that?
I don't know.
No, EA is still its own thing. Or Sony
EA is
owns
still its own
maybe?
thing.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. They're all a blur.
They all own each other in a giant incestuous loop.
I don't play any of their games. I haven't for ages. What was the last EA game I even remember playing? Let's see.
EA? Oh, God. I don't even...
Mass Effect 3?
Possibly, yeah.
That was like PS3. How long ago was that? I don't even remember.
That was like a decade ago.
Yeah, so not missing much there.
Nope. But I mean, for the purposes of people listening to this, if you enjoy dungeon crawlers and you enjoy Touhou, this is definitely something to check out if you get a chance. So, I don't know. This wasn't as hilarious as our movie reviews, but I think we got the job done.
Well, the problem is that in the movie reviews, I'm usually presenting you with something that's absolutely ridiculous, and
yes.
So we get your reaction. And this time the idea was I haven't played this game, but you have, so we were going to get my reaction. But I'm just like, cool, I want to play it.
Yeah, I think it's worth playing. I don't know.
What about the puzzle solving? You mentioned puzzle solving.
Yeah, so the dungeons are set up so the dungeons are kind of complicated. Like each floor is fairly large and has a lot going on. And then generally speaking, there will be these like hotspots where you'll go and there'll be like a little story moment. But oftentimes, and especially more so as you get later in the game, there'll be like some kind of cryptic, like hint, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's this?" And you'll need to either like find a different item, or bring an item there, or bring a specific character there, or maybe do a certain set of them in sequence. And what it'll usually do is like unlock a new character or something like that. So there's lots of little mini like, okay, I'm not exactly sure what to do next, so I need to just kind of poke at things and see what happens. Like just an easy one early on in the game, there was like this one boss that said that there was like level 35 or something like that. I'm like, my character's level 6. I'm not going to do anything with that. But then I kind of went through everything that I could figure out, and there was nothing else to do. So I'm like, well, you know what? I've discovered now that dying in this game doesn't really hurt me that much. So I'm just going to go over there and see what happens. And so I hopped in, and it was actually a scripted story fight where you got a couple of characters temporarily that were higher level. It was like a neat little thing where it's like the thing that you think you're supposed to do isn't what you're actually supposed to do.
Okay. I can buy that. But hey, it is a Touhou game. It sounds like a good one, and the quality of Touhou fan games has only been on the rise.
Yeah.
Like I guess I don't know if they've slowly weeded out the people that don't make good ones, or if they just are easier to pass over now. But
no, they keep making good ones. They keep making them, but it's all there's enough of them now that you can pass over. That it's not like, oh, I have to play this because it's the only one. There's so many at this point that it's just like, yeah, whatever.
It's pretty obvious sometimes which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones.
And even the bad ones aren't often actually that bad. They're just like, I probably shouldn't have spent $20 on this.
Yeah. Even the absolute worst ones I played had some charm to them. Like the one where you're just running from Patchouli the whole time.
I haven't played that one.
Was it Patchouli? I forget who you were running. I think it was Patchouli you were running from. It was, I guess you were playing as Marisa and you stole a book and Patchouli was chasing you down, and it's like in a Bard's Tale or Etrian style 3D movement kind of perspective.
Oh, that's cool. You'll have to let me know what that game is, because I'm actually interested in that.
I can do that right now. Let's see, what was that called? I believe it was Marisa's something.
That's...
I know, there's a lot of those.
There was that shop simulator with the Marisa shop simulator that was pretty good.
And there was Marisa Land Legacy, Marisa's Marvelous Magic Shop, Little Marisa's Disaster Journey.
Marisa's Marvelous Magic Shop is the one I'm talking about. It's short and it's quick and it's just kind of nice, but it's not a particularly amazing game.
Happy Stealing with Kirisame Marisa.
Okay.
That was the name of it.
All right. Well, any other comments regarding Labyrinth of Touhou? I don't know how many levels are in it. Like, it's not clear at this point how many levels are in it. My party's up in level 5, and we're not anywhere near as powerful as I think that we need to be to get, I think that there's a long path to the end of this game that I'm not anywhere near, so I think I'm going to get a lot of time out of it. It seems good.
And I'm planning on doing the same, because I love a good dungeon crawl.
It is a good dungeon crawl. I prefer the ones that have like the first person view, but I will deal with an isometric dungeon crawl if it's good.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And since we're on the subject of games, probably mention one that we both found recently that I guess it's an older game, but it was pretty fun, that Fate game.
Oh, yeah. That was recommended to me by someone who was watching one of my Final Fantasy Tactics streams.
Yeah, I checked it out as soon as you were telling me about it, and it's... I think the best way to describe it was the way that you described it, which was it's like Diablo, but good.
Yeah, well, I mean, Diablo's alright, but like, the thing about Fate is that it looks kind of cutesy, but actually as I'm playing it more, the difficulty is actually ramping up in a very satisfying way. So, whereas I thought the game was going to be really easy, I've gotten to like level 7 or level 8 in the game now, and it's actually becoming quite difficult, and I'm having to kind of like figure out what to do with my resources in a more efficient way than I was up until then. So
Catch more fish.
It's a good game. I definitely am doing that. The other thing to note about Fate is that there's actually 4 games in the series. So
yeah, so
the first one is the one we played, and I'm very curious to see how that game series amps up as time goes on.
It would be a real pity if the first one was the only good one and the rest of them just kind of petered out.
I hope not.
But
it's possible, but I hope not.
It seems like it'll be a fun run, start to finish.
Yeah.
So a couple of great game recommendations. Everyone go out there with your dollar bills and bitcoins and play them.
The bits and the coins and the coins and the bits.
Just need to come up with the most ridiculous cryptocurrencies of all time. Loaf coin. It only buys bread.
Well, that's what they're gonna do with the Federal Reserve coins, right? They're gonna Chinese social credit system that it's a voucher. You can only buy what we say you can.
But you can only buy NFTs of bread, so it's not real bread.
Oh. What if you bought the NFT and then you ate the NFT and then it was no longer even in existence?
Well, I'd be down for that.
Yeah?
I own this NFT that I ate that is no longer here, but I own it.
I've converted it to a different kind of NFT.
Mostly gas.